I started this race in 7th with a pretty simple plan, to get on the podium. The 992 felt good during testing, but the Nords in traffic is never calm. By the end of the opening sector, I'd already picked up 2 positions, which was encouraging, but slightly dangerous for my ego. That's typically when mistakes happen. Lights out from 7th, and the first goal isn't to gain positions, it's just to survive the opening sector. Traffic at the Nords compresses everything. You think you have space and then suddenly you don't. So I'm mostly watching brake lights and trying not to overreact. The car feels stable here, but you don't really know how much grip you have until someone ahead brakes earlier than expected. I'm not really trying to force anything yet, because at this pace you don't need a dive bomb. You just need a slightly better run and a clean exit. If someone makes a small mistake, that's enough. And that's usually how the first move happens. The first pass came under braking. He defended late, but I stayed tighter on entry and carried enough speed to get alongside before the next section. Once I cleared him, the rhythm changed a bit. Now, it wasn't about reacting anymore, it was about setting up the next move. Came into that a little too spicy there. This was a good example of me not scanning further ahead of the 2 cars through the corner. That's typically how little mistakes stack up. You get tunnel vision on the car in front and forget the track is still there. The gap ahead wasn't huge, but I didn't want to rush it either. One messy corner and I just give it back. So at this pace, it's less about aggression and really more about getting in the better run. The second pass was cleaner. I got the better run and stayed into the next entry. The front ended up sticking as I expected. At that point, I could see third, which is always when you start convincing yourself you're faster than you actually are. The gap wasn't massive, but it wasn't small either. At the Nords, that's enough distance to make you impatient. The car still felt composed, but the pressure changes when you're the one doing the chasing. You start braking a little deeper and you start squeezing the throttle a little earlier. Nothing quite dramatic yet, just small increases. And that's usually how overdriving begins. I could see the Ferrari up ahead, and he wasn't pulling away everywhere, just in enough places to make it frustrating. Through the tighter sections, I could stay with him, but on the straights, not so much. That's when the race really settled into a rhythm. The Ferrari ahead wasn't pulling away in the technical sections, but I wasn't finding a safe opening either. Into the carousel, I hesitated. I told myself I wasn't being smart, but in reality I just didn't want to be the guy who sends it in there and end up sideways in the barrier. After that, it turned into one of those awkward stretches where you're close enough to see every mistake, but not quite close enough to do anything about it. I could stay with him through the tighter stuff, but every time we open up the track, the gap would breathe again. That's the frustrating part about the Nords. You feel like you're right there, but you're never quite alongside. So I stopped thinking about the pass and just focused on keeping the pressure on. If he made another mistake, I wanted to be close enough to take it. A few sectors later, the Ferrari dipped onto the grass and rejoined pretty aggressively, so I backed off. It just wasn't worth forcing anything there. If we touched, the race would have been over for both of us, even if it meant giving up a bit of momentum. Down the long straight, I expected to start closing. Instead, nothing. That's when it hit me. I never mapped DRS. So I'm sitting there wondering why I'm not gaining. And the answer is because I'm basically driving the aero equivalent of a parachute. Not ideal. By the end of lap 1, nobody appeared to be ahead. For a second I thought I'd suddenly unlock some hidden pace. But a few sections later it became obvious that the AI had gone into the pits. Bold strategy. Not one I was planning to copy. At this point with the field shuffled, I decided if I was going to lose this, it wouldn't be from being cautious. So I stopped driving at 90% and went looking for the edge, which is usually where things get interesting. Alright, this is where it either works or it doesn't. that's quicker. I'm braking later now. I braked later than the car was ready for, overloaded the front, and by the time I tried to save it, it was already cooked. And the moment I tried to be a hero, it reminded me who was actually in charge. The podium might have been there, but setting it was more fun anyways. I'll catch you on the next run. Peace!